The Go Radio Football Show. The countdown to the new season is underway.
Let's go!
Well, Celtic have put the no-go in Kyogo, getting last season's Player of the Year signed up on a new 4-year contract. Today's big headline: Kyogo stays as Jota goes. The deal has been done for the Portuguese winger to leave Celtic for Saudi Arabia. The transfer fee believed to be a record equalling £25 million. That's the fee, of course, Arsenal paid for Kieran Tierney. So Jota has gone after 2 years in the East End of Glasgow. He was just one season into a 5-year deal. But great news for Celtic fans that Kyogo is going nowhere. All sorts of speculation about potentially linking up again with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. That will not be happening. And as for Jota, he's going to be in the same team as Karim Benzema and N'Golo Conte in Saudi Arabia. That is a pretty top squad that is being assembled out in the Middle East. So we'll update you on all the top stories on the Celtic front as well. The Korean leg of Celtic's summer tour has now been scrapped. No great surprise, because it was heading into deeper and deeper levels of chaos. And all the latest on Rangers. Have they made it? Summer signing number 6. Cyril Dessers is the man in question, of course, from Cremonese. A deal that certainly, if it's not done, it seems about to be done. Good to have you with us on the Go Radio Football Show. Rob McLean and Mark Guidi is here. Mark, how are you?
Good, Rob. Nice to see you.
And you too. And we'll keep an eye on Andy Murray, of course. We're going to be totally professional. We've got Sky Sports News on, but we are tempted to switch over to Wimbledon. But I think Andy is cruising, would be the tennis phrase.
Yeah,
at this stage.
He's one set up and quite comfortable. So yeah, you'd expect Andy Murray to get through. And good on him. I think was he 36 now, and he's still going strong despite his injury problems. Yeah, so a great ambassador for Scottish sport.
That all-British tussle against Ryan Peniston, and well, he's a set-up, and I think he's doing pretty well in the second set as well. We will hear too, in the course of the next 60 minutes, from Jack Butland, the Rangers goalkeeper. His thoughts about the season ahead, and well, he talks as well. He answers a question at least about getting back in the England squad. I think he's probably well down the pecking order, but you know, there's no harm in being ambitious.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be one of his aims. I would think first and foremost for Jack Butland. Listen, he's asked the question, so he's got to answer it, and that's the answer you would expect. But first and foremost, if you have him, just establish yourself as Rangers number 1 first and show that you're that, because you've got Robbie McCrory. They are going to be breathing down his neck, who's an able young goalkeeper. And to be honest, McCrory's not young anymore. He's 25. He's not a kid. Yeah. So Butland first and foremost has to go and show that he's better than McCrory, and then you take it from there. But I remember the most recent one's Fraser Foster, who always struggled to get into the England squad and was at Celtic. That said, he was taken as part of the 2014 World Cup or the 2012. He did make it into the squad. So it can be done. But I think first and foremost, just get your feet under the table, settle in at Rangers, and show what you're all about first and foremost to your club before you think about the international stuff. So the top story, Mark, this Tuesday evening, Japan striker Kyogo Furuhashi signed a new 4-year contract with Celtic, saying he's excited to help defend their 3 domestic trophies, a treble winner last season. He's 28, Kyogo, and he scored 54 goals in 83 games since arriving from Vissel Kobe a couple of years back. There was speculation, of course, that he might just follow Ange Postecoglou to Tottenham, but Celtic have done their best to stamp all over those rumours today. He was already contracted, I think, to 2025, but this is a new 4-year deal. There'll be a hefty pay rise, and why not for a guy who was absolutely outstanding and, of course, was pretty much undisputed, wasn't he, as Player of the Year, Mark? Yeah, it's been a great 48 hours for Celtic. I said last week when Paul was on, Rob, that there's going to be a decision that have to be made with Kyogo, because you get 2 years left in his deal, and he either stays or you sell him. I thought it was heading towards selling him, although the perfect scenario was that they extended his contract. Then the Jota thing happens, and all of a sudden Celtic saying there's no way we're selling Jota and Kyogo. So the Jota thing's concrete. He wants to go. It's an incredible money. I don't think he'd have got 25 million anyway for Kyogo in the transfer market. So the Jota thing is perfect. And if you said to Brendan Rodgers, you need to lose one You either lose Jota or Kyogo, take your pick. I'm sure they're taking Jota, because finding a 25 to 30 goal striker is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to do. And also, he'll be better for his Champions League experience last season, where you think he'd 1 or 2 really good chances and he snatched at a couple, if I remember rightly. So he'll be better for that experience. I'm sure he'll now be the highest paid player in Scotland, and rightly so. And it just shows you how clever and how well run Celtic are as a business. They get that money in, and what do they right away? They plough some of it right into keeping their best player. There's a new deal. So they lose Jota, and the one breath and the next breath they announce that have signed Kyogo. So credit to Brendan Rodgers, credit to Michael Nicholson, the chief executive, who goes about his business very, very quietly but very, very efficiently. And it's clear to see now, Rob, that there's an excellent working relationship with Michael Nicholson and Brendan Rodgers, and that can only have a good thing for Celtic going forward.
Ange Postecoglou raved about him as well, didn't he? His partnership with Michael Nicholson, that all went very well, and it's kind of the dream deal, isn't it? When you sign someone like Jota, you get 2 amazing years out of him. And actually it's interesting, just looking at the stats, they both played 83 games for Celtic. Kyogo scored 54 goals and Jota was involved in 54 goals. I think he scored 28 and there were 26 assists. So again, those are amazing numbers. But when you get that sort of performance out of a player, and then you basically quadruple your money in terms of a transfer fee, 25 million to Saudi Arabia. I mean, that is top business. Isn't it?
It's a no-brainer for Celtic. They had to accept the deal, and the player had to accept it in terms of, his personal contract that he was getting. There's also the full Portuguese connection with Santos being the manager, the Portuguese agent getting involved. So it's a very, very easy jigsaw to fit. So Jota becomes a wealthy young man, and Celtic do what they try to do with all these players. They try to get the best out of them on the pitch for a couple of years and move them on. So there's another success story. They've had many, many success stories in the past 10 or 15 years, and as you say, it matches the Kieran Tierney transfer fee. Kieran Tierney's the best one, come through the academy and sells for 25. Jota in for 6, out for 25, albeit Benfica might be getting a couple of million out of that. But it's fantastic business. I mean, you think of how strong Celtic are financially before this deal had gone through. Something like 50 million in the bank, no counting the Champions League money from this season. And now you go and top that up. So there's not that they were under any pressure, but there's now no, I would say, real temptation to sell anybody else unless it suits them. So if something comes in for Hatate, Hatate's to get 3 years to go in his deal, so he's not at that moment where you need to decide or something else. So far Jota will be difficult to replace because the stats that you mentioned, Rob, absolutely outstanding. However, taking everything into account and the news about Kyogo, it's been a really good couple of days for Celtic.
Is it worrying for Rangers fans that this Celtic model, this business model that they have in terms of getting great playing time out of players and then selling them on at a big profit? I mean, as you said, Celtic already had lots of money in the bank. They were really in a really strong financial position, and that just seems to get better and better.
Well, there'll be I think what maybe Rangers might feel today, and they can't control what goes on at Celtic and vice versa, but there will be that kind of, again, it's just it hammers home the lesson of how they didn't deal properly with the Morelos and the Kent situation 2 years ago. So that just hammers that home, how they need to get their acting gear when it comes to that and start creating bigger assets as well at the club. That's going to take a bit of time, Rob, but there's nothing that Rangers can do about what happens across the road and vice versa. The only time they can do something about it is when they play each other, and the first time will be September the 3rd. But Rangers have got much more important things to be concerned about apart from who Celtic are signing. They've got a £30 million Champions League programme coming up in the next 4 or 5 weeks. They've got the start of the title that I'm sure everybody at Ibrox would concede they have to win this season. They can't allow Celtic to do it again, or some people will lose their jobs. So they can't be concerned with what's going on across the road. Nothing they can do about it.
And is it guesswork at the moment to think about what Rangers are assembling? Will we only really know once those players are on the pitch, once Michael Beale's got them into his best starting 11? Because the signings on the face of it, I mean, I think he's about to sign a 4th striker in terms of the 6 summer signings, and that maybe underlines a key area for Rangers that was sadly lacking last season. Yeah, so
we're probably looking at from the sort of kind of main Rangers starting 11 last season. I think you'll be looking at least 6 changes, Rob, to what happens, whether it's at Kilmarnock away from home, on the Saturday night, the first day of the season, or the first Champions League qualifier. But you'll be looking at least half a dozen new players, which is always the kind of number that Michael Beale kind of thought. And let's be honest, that's what they've needed. They've needed to freshen it up, because it's not been good enough the past couple of years in terms of trying to win the league. It was great 18 months ago under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst getting to European final, but they didn't win a cup last season. So a lot of those players had to go. There was natural wastage. One or two that they'll be trying to get out the door to get off the wage bill and try and bring in some money to help with the further recruitment that's required this summer. And then it's Michael Beale, whose biggest asset is his coaching abilities day to day. So that's where he's got to go and gel a team and gel them quickly. The players buy into their ideas. He notices things about his players, different partnerships that he might become apparent when they see them in training. But he'll have an idea now of what his starting 11 is going to be like. There's probably another couple that he'll want to bring in, and it's just trying to get them over the line. But Rangers had to change the menu, because the previous one wasn't good enough. That's why A, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst lost his job, and B, they didn't win a trophy last season.
And it's not a given that despite signing lots of good players, you then suddenly have a great team. It worked for Ange Postecoglou 2 years ago. When he inherited a team that needed a rapid rebuild done on it, and I mean, it was spectacularly successful. He had so many successes in the transfer market, but it's not a given. And there's a lot,
and it took a couple of months.
Yeah,
Ange Postecoglou.
That's right.
It didn't happen overnight. It took 7, 8, 9 games. You think a couple of bad results in Europe, then whatever group stage it was they went into, I can't remember. I think they lost it at Hearts in the opening day of the season. So it took a wee while, and eventually it got going. It clicked into place. So you can't. It might happen overnight for Rangers. You can never rule anything out, but you can't think, because we've got 6 new players and they all look great, we'll be fine. We'll cruise into the Champions League and we'll beat Celtic in September the 3rd and we'll get into international break 5 points clear. That might happen, but you can't take it for granted. It's a case of, at the moment, what are you doing? You're working with your players, so the fitness stuff will be pretty much done. You're now looking at your starting 11, best ways to play them together, best formation. You might not be setting a formation yet. You might be looking at the 3 centre halves, 2 wing backs. I wouldn't be surprised. I think he might be thinking about something like that, and then different things, and depending how many strikers he can get in, where he wants to play them. 1 or 2 that might still go out the door. So there's lots of wee different things to it, but ultimately he's got, what have they got, just over 3 weeks to go and get it going before the league starts. And the league is the most important thing, Rob, but what you want to do is get into that Champions League, because it puts you on a high. Yeah. It really does put you on a high, and for financially for the club, it's a game changer, getting that kind of money in the building. And if they do, then it might give Michael Beale that last 3 or 4 days of the window to go and bring 1 or 2 more.
Would it be also about, for Rangers, getting some credibility back, getting into the Champions League, getting some better results? Because obviously there were some disastrous results last season.
Yeah, well, obviously the more points that you can pick up, the better. You don't want to go in and have the same scenario that they had last season when you lose the 6 games. But ultimately, the first thing that would come into their mind is just try and get there. Try and get that money and the kudos, just as I say, the feel good factor. And then when you get there, you go and deal with it. But if you think back to last season for Rangers, and where lessons need to be learned, albeit Michael Beale wasn't in charge, was that there was 4 days that pretty much just killed off Rangers' season. They lost by 3 or 4 goals at Celtic Park, and then lost by 3 or 4 goals in the Amsterdam Arena in their opening Champions League game, and then the opening Old Firm game season. They never recovered from that. Never recovered from it.
Does Michael Beale have credit in the bank because of that? I mean, that really impressive run he put together, and his problem, of course, was that Celtic didn't blink at that point, and Rangers couldn't do anything about the gap that was already there. Or does he not have too much credit because of the way the season ended?
Well, if he gets himself into the Champions League, then there's credit there right away. But that credit will be gone if you lose to Celtic at Ibrox, because you look at them now, because it's 50,000 Rangers fans at Ibrox and 60,000 Celtic fans at Celtic Park for the Old Firm games. The home advantage, you need to take advantage of that, and I think Rangers really need to put down a marker that they can win an Old Firm game that matters, one where there's something on the line. Michael Beale hasn't managed to do that yet so far, so that's what he's got to do. And then you take it from there. But Rob, yourself, you can have credit in the bank 1 week, then you've got, in the space of 8 days, you could have 3 games might not win any of the games. The credit's gone within 8 days.
Yeah.
So you don't like it as
credit becomes debit pretty quickly.
And if you want to draw a comparison to the last manager, he got to a European final, won the Scottish Cup, get into the Champions League, helped create Calvin Bassey into a £20 million player, and 10 for Joe Aribo. And he lost his job in November.
I know. When you put it like that, it's incredible. It can change in the blinking of an eye, can't it? Jack Butland's been talking today, the new Rangers goalkeeper. He's been answering a few questions, as we were saying earlier on. Here he is, the Rangers keeper, on the team's style of football.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, no as well, because of the amount of possession that we've got at times. So there's a different demand. I think, obviously, going to United and the style of play that they had differs from where I've been before. There'll be different demands on me again, but the be-all and end-all is keeping the ball out of the net. It's those moments, one moment maybe every game, that you've got to be where you need to be and make the right decision. Other games it may be more than that, but that's what being a goalkeeper at this club is all about. For a large part of it, you're going to have a lot of the possession. Some games are harder to break down teams than others, and it might come down to that one moment that just keeps you in a game and gives you the chance to win it, or keeps you 1-0 up, whatever it may be. And that's what it's about. So for me, that's exciting, is to hopefully be part of a winning squad, but to be able to contribute when it's most important, and that's what being a goalie here is all about.
He was talking about United there. He was on loan at Manchester United. Didn't play. I don't think he played, but
on the bench a few times.
He was certainly a Crystal Palace goalkeeper for the last few years. Really experienced, got a good pedigree about him. Former England international.
A really good spell at Stoke.
Yeah,
he had a good spell at Stoke. Spoke very well. And Rob, it's so simple, but it's so true. For any goalkeeper, just keep the ball in the net.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you need to do to stop the ball from getting in the net. And the one thing about Jack Butland, I don't know the exact stats, Rob, but he's not played much football in the past 2 years. He'll be champing at the bit. Like I said, I think he's got to establish himself first and foremost. I think it would be very unfair just to write off Robbie McCrory, because he's a quality young goalkeeper. So first and foremost, establish yourself and then take it from there. And he's going to have big nights in the Champions League qualifiers, because he's going to have things to do. Rangers will have really tough moments. You think back to the qualifiers last season against Union SG and PSV.
Well done.
So you think of that. So there's going to be big moments for him to deal with. And if he can get through that and play a part in getting Rangers into the Champions League, all the way he's feeling really good up himself. He's really looking forward to it, embracing the challenge of being a Rangers goalkeeper, which is a big pressure. He's got big gloves to follow, and Alan McGregor, who in his second spell at Rangers was Steven Gerrard's best signing. I think McGregor was absolutely fantastic over that 4 or 5 year period. But now it's Jack Butland or Robbie McCrory. But Jack Butland, you would expect, is going to be the number one. But he's got a tough act to follow. But you see, he's got a good CV, and again, without wanting to look across the road, but he could probably,
I was just going to say that.
Pardon the pun, he could probably take Hart. Very similar scenario to Joe Hart, who hadn't played a lot of football a couple of years, came up here and has been brilliant for Celtic, and I'm sure Jack Butland will be looking to emulate that. I
mean, there will be, whether he likes it or not, there will be those comparisons. And you look at Joe Hart, and I don't think we were too sure what Celtic were getting at the time in Joe Hart. We knew all about his CV, we knew all about the experience, the England caps and all the rest of it, the Champions League, but he hadn't played an awful lot at that spell, and we wonder what an influence, what a player he's been for Celtic. And if Jack Butland can be anything towards that sort of impact, Rangers will be happy. Yeah, and one of the things that you got that's not noticeable about Joe Hart is how he was behind the scenes. So we were talking earlier there about Postecoglou settling in and having to build a whole new team, and it took a wee while to get it going. But Joe Hart, and he was also very helpful to Callum McGregor, who was a new captain. So all that as well, behind the scenes, he was very calm and influence and very good with the new players, albeit he was a new player himself. And listening to Jack Butland and looking at his CV, speaking to one or two people about him that have been teammates or worked with him, I think he's quite like that as well. I think he's very mature, he's a talker, and he'll be one of the leaders in the dressing room, one of the leaders for Michael Beale. And when there's 5 or 6 new players trying to settle in, possibly a new formation, certainly a new team really,
then he's going to play. He's going to, if it's going to be successful, he's going to be a vital part in that.
One of 5 so far summer signings for Rangers. Number 6 seems to be on the way. Cyril Dessers from Cremonese. That looks like it's going to happen any time now as Rangers rebuild towards the start of next season. More from Jack Butland coming up between now and 6 as we talk football on Glasgow's Own.
The Go Radio Football Show. The countdown to the new season is underway. Let's go!
Cheers, Chris. We'll get another travel update in about 20 minutes' time on your way home. The Go Radio Football Show. Rob McLean and Mark Guidi in the studio. Just 60 minutes tonight, and we've got about 35 to go. Another of the headlines today, former Rangers manager, former England and Liverpool midfielder Steven Gerrard has been named as the manager of Saudi Arabian side Al Ettifaq. The 43-year-old had said in June he'd been invited over to look at a potential offer, as he described it, but they would not be taking it up. Without a doubt, Gerrard's presence will be an addition and a quantum leap to our league, the Saudi Arabian Pro League, said Khalid Al Dubal, the club's chairman. Gerrard has signed a 2-year contract with the Saudi club. They were 7th in the 16-team Pro League last season, finishing 35 points off the pace. The champions were Al Ittihad, who of course have just signed Jota from Celtic, in addition to the likes of Karim Benzema and N'Golo Conte as well. Let's talk to Sean in Garthamlock. Sean, how are you?
How you doing, Rob? I've not spoke to you in about a year.
I know it's been a while, matey, but nice to have you on. And is it Stephen
back on the show? See, to be honest, right, I don't know what he's went over there. I spoke about to my friends. Obviously, I know the money. Rumours that he's got to be on 250 grand a week. I know that money does change. People. Money like that, Mark Reedy, you and Mark Reedy would go radio over there. But to be honest,
we're already planning it.
I actually, honestly, Rob, and Mark, I actually think taking over there, see if he goes over the Saudi Arabia League and he doesn't do well, where's that got to make him as a manager? See, I actually think he should have looked at maybe going to Spain or even the English Championship or maybe a low Premier League team. Going over there, I think this could make... Because, to be honest, no disrespect to the Saudi Arabia League, but I think if you win the league over there, I think you get more credit for winning the SPL and what you do winning the league over there. What do you think, guys?
Well, I mean, Steven Gerrard lost his job October, I think it was, at Aston Villa. He's been linked with a couple of jobs in England. Sean, as you know, I think the most recent one was Sheffield Wednesday. He'd been linked with Leeds United. He'd been linked with one or two other jobs, and for whatever reason, it's not happened. He was linked with Saudi Arabia 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it seemed to go quiet, and it looked like Sheffield Wednesday. So maybe he's just looked at all these options. As you said, is he 43? And he's thought 2 years, why not? And I don't agree with you on the fact if he doesn't do well, then that's him finished, because he will come back and eventually get another job in England. So
Mark, I'm only speaking what the English media are saying. It's no me, mate. That's my English media.
No, I don't agree with that. I think he will get another job. I think he will. But at the moment, he's weighed everything up. He's been off now. So what's that? October? That's him been off 9-10 months. And he's thinking, right, if this is a solid offer and it is life-changing money, even for somebody like him, then he's thinking, yeah, I've got to do it. I've got to go and do it. And he's also looking at, Benzema and all these guys going over there, Ronaldo and all these people, and thinking, okay, if it's there for me and this is all I've got, I want to be a manager. And the way he'll be looking at it, Sean, is I'm going to go over there and do really well and relaunch my career. That's the way the way they all look at it. He's not thinking, well, if I fail, that's me finished. He'll be thinking the opposite. No, this will be a stepping stone to me, I might not even be out there for 2 years. I might just need one really good year, and I'll be back as whatever job might become available.
And is this a sign, Mark, that maybe the Saudi Arabian Pro League is looking to get serious, and it's doesn't want to be known as a retirement home for ex-European professionals who want to make a few quid at the tail end of their careers? Obviously, in Jota you're signing somebody who's still to come to his peak. Neves has gone out there. Maybe this is a new era for football over there, and maybe we are going to be taking it a bit more seriously in the next couple of years. Yeah,
I mean, I think we had a similar scenario 7-8 years ago with China, when they were stamping everybody up and big name managers and all went out, and then the money dried up. And pardon the pun, I don't think the money's going to dry up over there anytime soon. It does appear to be wealth off the radar. So I think that's going to be it for a wee while. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and do something to get into bed officially with some of the other leagues, whether it would ever happen or not, Paul, Rob. But when you look at the clubs that own the PSGs and the Man Cities, that they try and find a way to get some kind of amalgamation or some kind of European league that also incorporates them as well. Something, I don't know. I don't think they're just doing this to have it week to week. That's obviously the starting point. But within 10 years or so, if this keeps going, they'll try and find something else.
Look what golf's done.
Exactly.
The Live Tour, Saudi-backed Live Tour, was a rebel tour, was upsetting everybody. Then suddenly it's a piece in our time, and all the golf tours are together. And already the European Tour had events in the Middle East anyway. So it kind of feels as if football might move that way as well. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me. Because we see these guys don't appear to be flashing the pans. They're proper. We're not going to get into all the political stuff. That's for a different programme. But certainly in terms of just the football and the wealth and the kind of players that they're signing, as you say, they're signing players at 25 to 30. 30, 40, 38. Albeit Ronaldo's an exception stuff. But no, they're trying to do it properly. And we'll see how it develops over the next couple of years. But what would fascinate me is with somebody like Jota. So once they sign, so let's say Jota has a really good season inside, so do they just weigh him in again, or does somebody see this not actually now I want to come back, but his club say, well, you can go back, but you want 75 million for it. Is anybody that's a kind of difficult.
You'd want a bit of protection.
Start getting interesting. Will the clubs in Saudi Arabia ever become selling clubs, or will they just skip? So let's just say one of the top players, Barcelona have come in for somebody, or Chelsea have come in from somebody, and they say, well, you've got a year to go on your deal, or you've got 2 years. Well, no selling you. We want 100 million, we want 150, but we'll weigh you in again. You can have another 200 grand a week to stay. Where does it end?
I guess that's all about the negotiation of the deal, which is difficult when you're getting money thrown at you, because the Saudis are in a strong position, because they're 30 million quid for Jota over 3 years, and wages potentially is the figure we're hearing. But as you say, if it doesn't work out, you want the escape route back into the European leagues, don't you?
And if you just want to go and fill your pockets for 2 years, or you need to let me back. So
he's going to be okay.
That'll be all down to the agents.
Are you? I mean, what about how much are Celtic going to miss Jota, Sean? Do you reckon?
I think Jota will be a big miss, but for 25 to 30 million, but you're saying on Go Radio, I don't think any club maybe in England could knock that back, but if a 25 million, and even if a 15 million bid comes in for a Rangers and Celtic player, I think already the bags are packing. But I'm always thinking, will Gerrard look at ex-Rangers players or even ex-Celtic players or the English Premier League? And what I was like to ask as well before he's finished tonight, will this league get shown live on British Telecom, like BT or Sky Sports or Viaplay?
Well, that's a good question, and it's going to be really attractive, isn't it? And it's getting more and more attractive.
Oh, there'll be something in the pipeline, won't there?
Yeah.
There will be. Yeah, I think that's a good. I didn't think of that, Sean, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something pops up for the new season.
I heard Scott Wright's name getting mentioned. Somebody threw that name at me earlier on as one that might be heading out to link up again with Steven Gerrard. So he will use his contacts, won't he? He might well come calling, and obviously he's got the sort of money to throw at people that's going to make it a no-brainer. You would imagine for somebody.
Is there any rumours who's got to be his number 2?
No announcement as yet. No. Mark was just asking about Gary McAllister.
Yeah, Gary McAllister, I'm not sure. Tony Grant, who worked with Big Dunk, took him to Forest Green, and he's parted ways today. So I don't know if Tony Grant's maybe going with Steven Gerrard. So I'm not sure if it's been confirmed yet. But yeah, I was just interested to see if Gary McAllister was going to go with him again.
What do you make of Michael Beale's movements in the transfer market, Sean? Five, nearly 6 signings.
One or two, I'm not sure, but I think Michael Beale does need to go out and get the big signings, because this is the year the pressure's on him. Because Brendan Rodgers has won the league with Celtic, so he knows how to win the league. So I think this is the year. I'm putting pressure on Michael Beale. This is the year. The Scottish Cup and League Cup means nothing. Well, obviously, you still want to win it, but the SPL's the target. If Rangers don't win the SPL, I don't think Michael Beale would be at Rangers a year after that.
Sean, good to have you on the show.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Sean. See you soon. All the best. Good talking to you again, Sean and Garthamlock there on the Go Radio Football Show. Rob McLean, Mark Guidi with you for another 25 minutes. Just looking at some of the quotes attributed. There's some quite amusing quotes actually attributed to Kyogo. I'm not sure if he actually said some of these things, but not that there's anything too controversial, but I'm just not entirely sure. He was talking about Brendan Rodgers, clearly through a translator today, saying he's a top-level manager. He knows the club. And he knows what it takes to win silverware here. I can't imagine Kyogo ever saying silverware, but there you go. Linking up with Brendan Rodgers, looking forward to it, he says, as well. Although you would have thought instantly the news for the likes of Kyogo and Reo Hatate and the other Japanese players at Celtic, Maeda, it would have come as a bit of a hammer blow to them, wouldn't it? Because Ange was such a big reason they came. He understood the Japanese culture. Yeah. He knew what they would do. He brought them in, and of course they hit the ground running. Yeah, I think there'd been a part of it. I don't think that would be a massive part for them, Rob, to be honest, because they're so professional at their work. They're so dedicated, and they probably want first and foremost an opportunity to come over to Europe, because Furuhashi didn't play for Postecoglou. He played against him but didn't play for him. Yeah. So I don't think that was a big thing for them. Look, for players, it comes about what's on the table. Am I still going to get a game? Kyogo's been offered a new deal, so that's taken. Probably made him the highest paid player in the country. So that's taken away any thoughts of him thinking I might want to go down the road, whether it be to Spurs or to anybody else. I also think for Kyogo, and it's totally redundant now anyway, but I don't think his game would be particularly suited to down. I think he'd be better at La Liga or somewhere like that. Anyway, but it doesn't matter now. He's certainly here at Celtic for the next wee while. Hitate's got 3 years to go on his deal. Maeda's the one guy as well that I think could go down to the English Premier League and play. And remember, he's only 25. Yeah. And you look at his strength and his power and his stamina. Technically, he's not as good as Kyogo, obviously. But he's got something, he's got something, when he played in the World Cup and that as well. So that might be an interesting one. But those guys are so professional, and you're not going to tell me they're not going to enjoy working with Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is a top coach as well. He's coming in, new ideas, a freshness about the place. Even though Celtic have won a treble, there's got a freshness, a new drive and determination to go and win the league again and to go and do well in the Champions League. They're guaranteed access into that. So all that kind of stuff, as I say, I think it just makes it a really good sort of kind of 48 hours for Celtic. 25 million in for Jota, and their best player signs a new 2-year deal. Not bad at all. We've heard from Sean in Garthamlock. Now Laurie in Denniston. Hi Laurie.
Good evening, panel.
How are we?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'll tell you what my thoughts are. There is no way Saudi Arabia will be flying solo or operating as a separate entity. No question in my mind, that the face of global football is changing irreversibly. Now, they will most certainly, in my estimation, apply to join UEFA. And it's by no means unprecedented because already, if you look at it, there are teams competing in UEFA competitions that aren't European. Israel, Middle East country, technically is in Western Asia. They have clubs participating. Azerbaijan spans Europe and Asia, as does Turkey, of course. And the other one is Kazakhstan, which is an Asian republic. Mm-hmm. So the Saudis haven't arrived in the scene to spend this money, millions and trillions of pounds. I think you'll find that in the not too distant future, the Saudis will apply and be accepted by UEFA. Money talks in every situation in life. The panel's thoughts.
Well, I mentioned just something just a couple of minutes ago. Laurie, nice to hear from you. I don't know if you heard it, but I just said I think that it wouldn't surprise me if they try and find some kind of angle. And I agree with you. Listen, I have to confess, my geographical knowledge is absolutely nowhere near as good as yours. Laurie, so I'll take your word in terms of the technicalities, but the bigger picture, it wouldn't surprise me because a lot of them are big players already at clubs and the connections that they've got. And if this stops any talk of a Super League going again, Cheffrin will need to deal with it. Alexander Cheffrin, there might already have been tentative talks. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Big agents get involved, can bring them all together, etc., etc. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. That would have to be their sort of end game. How quickly they can reach that end game, or how quickly they get a no. But they don't strike me as the type of people that would take no for an answer. So it's an interesting one. Champions League's got a new format. Is it from next season, Rob? It's already kind of revamped and different things. So we'll wait and see. But your ultimate point, Laurie, I agree with you. It would just be interesting to see what the time scale would be.
And I think it was, as we also said earlier, there are precedents in other sports. You know,
the golf.
Golf. I mean, the European Tour in golf, Laurie, already had tournaments that weren't in Europe. Much more clear cut than the football example. So you can imagine that, as you say, pouring so much money in, they're going to want plenty back for it.
Oh, absolutely. And there are precedents. So the reason, incidentally, I emphasised, geographical boundaries was that these countries are in Europe, as I've said. Out with Europe, rather. And that there are precedents, the examples that I gave also. Just pursuing that to its logical conclusion, you've got a country like Qatar, which only recently, I think, has taken part as an invitation, of course, to participate. Mark, you'll be able to guide me here. It's a competition in question for the Central American and North American teams, the CONCACAF tournament.
Might well be. I don't know. It might well be. There's something ringing a bell, Laurie, but I'm not 100% sure.
Aye.
But you're right, there's certainly, Qatar, something rings a bell with Qatar getting involved in something, out with their sort of boundaries.
That's a prediction, Mark. I reckon that sure as night policy, you'll find this happening.
And all of a sudden, we always kind of try and pick a magic number, don't we? Like just for our teams being involved in the Champions League. So if it's somewhere between 30 and 40 million, the magic number, can you imagine if the Saudis get involved, you'll be going to 100 million quid overnight for our clubs.
And maybe we're heading towards a world championship of football rather than the European Champions League as we have at the moment. Why wouldn't it expand into other areas as well?
Into 4 midweek Super Leagues of 20 clubs, a league from all over Europe and Saudi Arabia, and so you're up and down.
Get a bit of paper out. Let's drop some plans.
I think there's something going to come pretty quickly. And I don't think it'll be like the way it was with that Super League with the 12 clubs around. It'll be something that will be dealt with properly, addressed in the right way, asked for proper meetings, television money, everything, Rob, all comes together. We could see a serious bit of change in the Champions League or our own European football under UEFA. Could be heading for a serious change.
Laurie, thanks for your call. It certainly got us thinking. It's got us thinking about where football is going. Thanks a lot for getting in touch with us. All the best to you.
Cheers, Laurie.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. Good evening.
The The Go Radio Football Show. Subscribe to the Go Radio YouTube channel for our latest videos. Let's go!
Also on the football rumour machine today was the suggestion that Sporting Lisbon might be considering a move for Lille Abada, the Celtic winger. I remember there was quite a bit of rumour as last season came to an end, Mark. There was quite a lot of talk about Abada. I remember the 10 million figure being mentioned, and it was plausible at the time because he wasn't regularly in the starting lineup, and that seems to be coming round again.
There was kind of a couple of suggestions from various people that are usually in the know that that he'd knocked back a new contract, and therefore he wasn't going to be sort of first name in the team sheet because of that. I think now though, Rob, depending on who Celtic can get in, albeit Telio could be somebody like that's able to fill that slot. I don't think you'd want to let Abada go at the moment. I think if I'm Brendan Rodgers, I want to sit him down, because when Abada's on it, he's got really good numbers. So look, the money that Celtic have got is brilliant for Jota, and the fact that they've now managed to retain and take away any speculation about Kyogo is great. But you wouldn't want to lose Abada's numbers as well, assists and goals, as well as Jota's.
He's incredible for numbers.
You're putting yourself on the back foot if you do something like that, and unless there's an incredible bid comes in for Abada, or they have earmarked somebody saying, no, this guy's first team ready to go in and play down that right hand side, then I'd be surprised. So I have a feeling that Brendan Rodgers, when they're all back next week, he'll use pre-season to sit down with a couple of guys and say, listen, you're a big part of my plans, I'm a new manager, I've watched you, I know what you can do, give me a year, and then see after a year you're the next one to go. But we're not letting you go just now when we've just let Jota go. So knuckle down, head down, fresh start. Let's get back to the way you were, and let's go in the first half of the season, make an impact in the Champions League, and ultimately go and win the league again. So I think that's a conversation that'll be had. Now, it could well be that Abada's mind's made up, his head's been turned by something, and there's no going back. We don't know that, but I just don't. I think it's too big a risk to be losing so many good numbers in terms of goals and assists when you've already lost Jota for fantastic money.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's been incredible. He's only 21. He was 19 when he signed, and the numbers are absolutely frightening. And were it not for people like Jota and Kyogo around, he would have been much more of a headline grabber. But it's been difficult to be.
Do you know what, Rob? It could well be that they actually now they'll say to Abada, listen, get your agent back in, boom, and see the next 5 or 6 days, Abada signed another deal, a new deal, and it's in the knowledge that he can go within the next 2 years, because that's the way you try and work it. Like Brendan Rodgers said on his first day when he was paraded back last week, I wanted to sign Callum McGregor, but the club had sold Kieran Tierney. They wouldn't let Callum McGregor go in the same sum, which was absolutely right. There's no way you could let McGregor and Tierney go, albeit I'm Brendan Rodgers, I know for sure would have paid 20 million quid for McGregor, but the club said no, we can't. Sends out their own message. Still, it's great to get the money in, but we still want to be successful, and we're not doing that. And I think now you're getting to a similar, unless it's somebody that you can really lose. But the likes of Abada on the back of Kyogo, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
This was Brendan Rodgers today speaking about Kyogo signing a new 4-year deal with Celtic. Kyogo's thrived since he arrived in Scottish football and has shown his outstanding qualities, said Brendan. He is an exciting player who's hungry to bring more success to our club. He has a great mentality and is an unbelievable talent. All undoubtedly true. Scotland's Player of the Year from last season. 54 goals he scored in a couple of years with Celtic already. What will he go on to do? What more records will he shatter in the coming years as a Celtic player? And I think back on side with the Japanese international team as well. It seemed ridiculous that he could possibly be left out of their selection, but he's today signed a new 4-year extension. Just wondering, we were speaking about this earlier on, there was that rumour that he might be going down the road and following Ange Postecoglou to Tottenham. How much? I mean, there must have been lots of interest in Kyogo in terms of nabbing him during this summer.
So I think. Well, okay. So I know that Bournemouth really fancied him in January, and it made 1 or 2 wee kind of moves, and I think Bournemouth were maybe talking about £10 million, which was never going to be entertained by Celtic, but that's a case. But like I said, I think one or two people I've heard with a good knowledge of down the road and what the kind of clubs are saying, they're thinking Kogil's obviously technically a very good player, but they were just wondering about the physical presence, the stature of that. That's why I thought somewhere like La Liga would be more suited. But and the other thing would be, it would depend what Celtic were willing to play ball at, Rob. So if Celtic were willing to play ball and sell him, because if he said, look, I don't want to stay, I've got 2 years to go on my deal, we need to get as much as we can, so Celtic have said we'll reluctantly let him go for 12 or something like that, then I think but if Celtic said no, we're looking for 20, then that changes, I think, they can view him. But it doesn't matter now. He's signed that new long-term deal. I think he's now probably the highest paid player in the country, and it's absolutely deserved. And it just, if you're Brendan Rodgers today, Rob, as you get ready to start back pre-season, you'll be thinking, wow, there could have been a potential headache to replacing Kyogo. That headache is now disappeared. I've got this guy happy, settled, committed. He's a guy who'll get me my 25 goals next season, because it's not, as we've said, it's not easy to go and find a number 9. It's the most difficult jersey to fill in a team, particularly trying to fill if you lost somebody like Kyogo. So Brendan Rodgers will be absolutely elated at the moment, because that's a massive one for him.
That would have been a headache for Celtic. What it will be is a headache for Scotland's central defenders in the Premiership for next season, as it's been for the last couple, trying to work out where he's going to pop up next. An amazing player and an amazing goal scorer. We've been hearing earlier from the Rangers goalkeeper, newly signed across the summer, Jack Butland, former England international. He's been talking today, and he's been talking about following in the footsteps of some absolute Rangers legends in goal, the likes of Andy Gorham and Alan McGregor.
That's the plan. Obviously, you're talking about two goalies that have a goalie. Obviously, Griggsy. Two guys that have got an incredible history with the club, that knew what Rangers was about. So me watching that sort of memorial video, if you like, to Andy Gorham the other day, painted a picture of what he was like and what he meant to the club and what the club meant to him. So I think that's what this club's all about. It's got a rich history of top goalkeepers, and that's something that I'll be looking to continue, both on and off the pitch, just trying to learn about the club, enjoy it, take it all in, and hopefully follow in their footsteps, which is, of course, a big ask because of what they've done. But it's what we're capable of doing, and that'll be great.
That is pressure, Mark, when you get those names thrown at you.
Yeah, but it sounds as though, Jack Butland's, he's clearly, he's done his homework, he's looked at it, and he wants that challenge. He wants to go and do something. He wants to very quickly make people, what he doesn't want is people saying, I wish we'd given McGregor a new contract. I wish he'd stayed, because so Butland wants to get in there, hit the ground running. He'll be so hungry, Rob, because he's been at Man United, he's been in the English Premier League, but he's hardly played a game in 2 years. So the thought for him being going in and saying, right away I have a chance of playing Champions League football. There's a game against Celtic at Ibrox on September the 3rd, opening day of the season. I'm live on Sky, Kilmarnock away, etc, etc. He'll be really, really excited. I think you could tell that by his voice. And he's saying he speaks very, very well. To let's say he'll be a calming influence about the place, and an experienced leader, which I'm sure Michael Beale will be happy to have in the building.
50,000 watching him every other week as well. It really is some prospect. And he's talking as well about the reason he joined the club. We've maybe answered this one already for him.
It wasn't difficult, really. For me, joining Manchester United was a great opportunity to join a club I supported as a kid, to learn from the best and things like that. But you quickly get to the point where you realise just how much you miss playing yourself, how much you miss that winning feeling. It's great when other people are doing it and you're part of that. But for me, it was something that Rangers had always sort of been there for a few years. It was never quite got to the point where I had a decision to make. And this summer, it sort of got to that point. It wasn't a difficult decision to make. An incredible club to join, the history, but ultimately being successful. That's what you want as a player. To be successful, that's this club's goals every year, without fail, is to be successful and is to win. And that's an exciting place to be as a player. And hopefully we can do that.
The other end of the pitch is going to be really interesting for Rangers as well, because they are amassing a few strikers in the squad now. Much needed, you would have to say, because they were left pretty short last season. The latest one, still to be announced, but it does seem like just a matter of time. The 28-year-old Nigerian international, Cyril Dessers. It's going to be, we're getting all sorts of information about the deal now, 4.3 million plus 1.3 add-ons. You get the feeling that it's about to be announced when you hear that sort of information from Cremonese. They've already signed a couple of strikers. Danilo at Feyenoord is saying he wants to come as well. That could be another 5 million deal to be done in the next few days. And suddenly you've got 4 new attackers in the squad, Mark.
Yeah, Michael Beale, clearly, he's wanting to be in the front foot. As Rangers, you'd expect them to be in 80-90% of the games anyway in domestic football, and want to go and try and blitz teams. He's always said he wants open, attacking football, wants to entertain, and bringing all those, if they get all those guys over the line, then he had to do it, because obviously Morelos is away, Kemar Roof's back in training, but he's just not quite sure how things will go for Kemar Roof. Hopefully it goes very well for him and he's fit and available, and then bringing in new options. So Dessers looks as though it's very, very close. Danilo is another one that they're looking at, so they're certainly trying to get as many attacking options into the building as possible, because again, Rob, as well, Champions League qualifiers, it's massive. For the feel good factor, taking you into because the first Old Firm game of the season will be after the final Champions League qualifier if they get through the first one, and financially, if you're John Bennett and James Bisgrove and the board, it's a game changer. I mean, it just gives you I would imagine a fantastic sigh of relief to get that one over the line.
So the Rangers' summer signing spree continues. It seems Jota on the way out at Celtic, and Kyogo very much staying where he is. That new 4-year deal announced today. Thanks, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Cheers,
and Steve McGinn will be with us here tomorrow night between 5 and 6.
The Go Radio Football Show. Subscribe to the Go Radio YouTube channel for our latest videos.
Let's go!